Welcome to another episode of Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? I'm Lanna Monday, and today I am back with Ramy El-Batarawi. How we doing, Ramy?
I'm doing great, Laura. Good to see you.
Great. So I'm tickled to say that this week we're going to be talking about Chapter 6 in Ramy's book. And that book focuses on not having a fear of loss, and it discusses a little bit about opportunity. In fact, let me read one of the quotes out of the book on opportunity. It says, conversations always are opportunities to learn about and align visions. And that says a lot. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you came to that conclusion in your own set of experiences.
Yeah. So again, for many years of like working and trying to get things done, especially when I was homeless, when I was younger. And then as I kept on getting to different levels and trying to talk people into doing things or invest in me or invest in companies that I was building, that's where I really got, me trying just to sell my vision only or what I wanted to sell them, and they weren't aligned with that vision, or they weren't thinking in that place. That's almost like having blinders on. So I learned to really listen to what they were saying, like when they came back to what they're saying, because most of the things, my projects or things I wanted to do would align with their vision if I just paid attention to what they're saying, because and then I could just repeat or mirror or have a conversation that was more in what their feelings, what they cared about. So if it was a housing project in a poorer area and stuff, instead of talking about numbers of how the government will assist and then you'll make a profit and all that, maybe he cares more about helping people. So you got to talk about helping people more than about the numbers and these things. So it's really anytime you're talking to somebody or selling something or trying to really get something done, you're trying to get somebody to, because you're going to need that person to advance your project. It's really listening to them, understand what their motivation is, and then working with their motivation to help you succeed. And that's why they want you to win, because it's really helping them advance what their goals are. So that was basically it, and it works for almost everything.
One of the most interesting things I ever heard was from one of the trustees of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. He was actually the president many years ago, and his name was Charlie Johnson. He was a doctor, he was a physician. And one of the most important pieces of wisdom he ever said to me was, when he goes into a room to check on a patient, I always ask them to talk about themselves, because people love to talk about themselves, and you can learn so much about that person by listening to what they have to say. Yeah. So that's kind of sort of your experience too.
Yeah, because people are interested in, they have their goals and motivation. And if anybody's also worth anything, they're being pitched at something every day. Right. I mean, I also get emails every day pitching, or now LinkedIn used to be a great place to connect, but every time somebody to connect with you, it's an automatic.
Yeah. So, very true.
So we don't even hear another pitch. Yeah. So that's why it's better to get to know the person, get their vision, and then you can, basically sell what they want instead of what you want, because then they won't reject it outright.
So on a personal level, let's talk about your very personal experience. How did you do that in your own life?
It's not almost every single day. I mean, it's, if you even got really personal, even with a relationship, I was trying to win my current wife over and stuff, instead of selling what my vision, what my life is going to be like, and, I listened to her and kind of talked to her about what her life is going to look like in the future if we were together and got married. So it doesn't matter what I wanted or how I saw my life going. It was more important how she saw her life going. So that's on a real personal level. It's the same thing. Like I talked to a lot of investors. Have one of my new company, EV Mobility, and it's all electric cars and apartment buildings and the hotels. Some people care about being green, and some people care about the money they're going to make at the hotel. Some people care about the amenities that they're offering their guests. So I listen to what's important to them, and then I really concentrate on that focus of why they should get those cars in their building. So it works every day on almost everything.
Right. So you talk about a little bit of your experience in chapter 6 with a man named Icahn. Am I saying that right? Icahn?
Icahn, yeah.
Okay. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's one place I really talk about Carl. And Carl is a very wealthy man, and he's very well known corporate raider worth $20 billion. He's always in the news, especially any business news. Everybody knows him. I think they modeled the movie Wall Street after him. But I wanted to do a deal with him and merge a company with one of his companies. And this is where it comes again, fear of loss is greater than the hope of gain. And I revert that, make my hope of gain better than their fear of loss. But it's not only fear of loss, it's just fear of anything, just like in Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the 6 ghosts of fears and everything people are afraid of, criticism, all
Right.
that, it stops them from succeeding. So I've gotten rid of all my fears in my life pretty much. I mean, I don't fear anything. I I even leave my keys in my car everywhere I park, and nobody's ever
Wow.
stolen them. But I don't think that anybody would think that they leave their keys in the car.
Yeah, right.
I've gotten that far where I don't even care or fear of those things. So approaching Carl, one, not fearing his wealth and his intimidation, and not fearing the things I had to do to get him to do things. And like one of them is to abruptly introduce myself when he was at a hotel in Vegas, and then finding out where he lived in the Hamptons, and I kind of just showed up before he woke up and just told the maid I was one of his guests, and then showed me a room, and she didn't know any better. And I was sitting there at the breakfast table waiting for him to come down, and he came down and said, "Oh, I'm going to call the police. You're crazy," and all this other stuff. And he was really attacking me. And to me, the worst thing they can do is maybe call the police and escort me out or something. So I wasn't afraid of it or what Carl was going to do and all that. But because of my lack of fear, I ended up, closing the deal I wanted 2 weeks later with him. So it was an example of not having fear, of getting every fear out. I think Grow Rich has so many lists of fears and alibi. You can just get rid of them. I mean, people just, I couldn't believe that one of the number one fears that Napoleon Hill mentions is fear of criticism.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody thinks about me, but it's amazing how many people cares about what their family's going to think of them, or what somebody's opinion is, or the things they can't do. So they don't even start because they're afraid of that criticism. And it's just, that's one of the fears I got rid of. The first fear I ever got rid of. It stops you. Or even fear of death or fear of getting old.
Right.
Makes you not want to try harder. You got to not even think about it, just get rid of it, because it really, all those fears stop you from doing anything that you really want out of life.
You're absolutely right. And if you were to say to someone, let's say I came to you and I said, Ramy, I really want to try to pitch this idea to person X. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give me? If I said, I'm really intimidated because, like you said, they have a lot of money. I'm intimidated by their wealth. I'm intimidated by how they speak and their status. How would you tell me to get over that?
Well, I think you don't go in there and pitch them the first meeting. You've got to, the first time you meet somebody you want to sell something to or convince them something, the conversation has to be around everything else other than what you're trying to sell them, and it's more about them. Mm-hmm. And I usually have multiple meetings, 4 or 5 meetings before I even talk about what I want to do with them.
Right.
And so I think the first thing is relax, talk about them, get to know them, get them to like you, smile a lot. Mm-hmm. And no matter what they say, don't be intimidated, because smiling is contagious. Enthusiasm is contagious.
Yes, it is.
Even people with a lot of money and stuff that they have, they don't want to be around people that are grumpy or upset or that have a problem. They want to be around somebody that's enthusiastic, that makes their life a little bit better. So the first thing is to first get to know them, relax and all that, and then slowly hear them, and then you know exactly how you're going to pitch what you want to sell them, and then slowly talk about their motivations. So, I am working on something that I think that, it's just kind of right up your alley, because you really like doing this and like doing that, and then they'll listen more because you didn't pitch them the first meeting, and they're listening on how it's going to be advancing what they're interested in. So that's how I go about it. But I would never go in and make it the first sale call, especially if it's something important.
Right. Very good food for thought. Wonderful advice. So folks, if you guys want to learn more about Ramy and his experience and some of his advice, Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? You can get it from his website. The website's actually the same as the name of the book, canyourreallythinkandgrowrich.com. You can get your copy today. It's an amazing read from an amazing man with a fantastic story. So Ramy, thanks so much for joining us this week. And next week we will come back and we will cover a little bit on chapter 7. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.